Hello and welcome to Education 505, Trauma and its Impact on Child Development. This is week 5. So week 4 review. You guys did some excellent extensions in your discussion board conversations. Your APA is continuously improving. It's great. I can also see that your critical thinking and the analysis, it's very evident. I don't have to go doing a very deep dive to see that you guys are thinking a great deal about these questions and dialoguing with your peers in meaningful ways. Also, great job sharing resources with each other. Every time somebody brings in an outside resource, that is something that everybody else who's looking at it can use. Our week 5 overview. Our theme is childhood trauma and executive function impairment. Your learning activities this week are to watch this video and complete all discussion board activities, required and supplemental readings. This week, there is an article, a website, and 2 videos to view. Posted the slides already for you. And then to start thinking about and working on your week 6 assignment. Some themes and questions from, I can spell, I promise, from the check-in. How do we as teachers know whether or not we are dealing with trauma or just behaviors in defiance? Sometimes we're not told certain information due to data privacy, and me and my team constantly battle with determining the difference. I would say if you can figure this out, write a book. You will not have to work ever again. This is really the core question of not only this program, but teaching in a trauma-informed way. It's almost impossible without having all of that information. Even if you have all of that information, it is possible that you're dealing with a very resilient student, I guess, in my case, who has all of this trauma, but they've handled it well and the behaviors are just a decision. Or you're dealing with a kid who has had, one traumatic experience, and that was enough that is the cause of their behaviors. It's very difficult to judge. I would say it's probably impossible to get that correct every single time. But all joking aside, if you ever come up with a way, write a book, because we will then use that book in this program. Can I use outside resources on all discussion board posts, assignments, and papers, or just discussion posts? Everything. You can use outside resources on everything. I know myself as an instructor, and I'm guessing most of the other instructors greatly appreciate seeing outside resources brought in and cited correctly, because not only does that mean that you're putting that time in to do the research, but it also sometimes brings up new things for us to look at that we may incorporate into later iterations of the course. So yes, use outside resources all the time. All right, not for me, but for the program generally, the courses are marketed as self-paced. Yeah, I would say that's not super true, outside of the fact that you could technically work ahead. So you could go in and do the discussion boards, the initial post for the rest of the course right now. You could go ahead and do the assignments for the rest of the course right now. But those responses to your peers are almost always going to have to be done between Thursday and Saturday. The general pacing of the course, with first discussion boards due Thursday, responses due Saturday, assignments due weeks 2, 4, 6, and 7, sometimes 8, has held true for every course that I've taught. That is the general guideline of the course. So if that is something you're struggling with, I would recommend that you can work ahead. So as soon as the course is open to you, most courses should have all of the discussion boards that aren't the instructor remarks open right away. And they also should have all assignments open right away. So you can get a rough start on all of that. I would recommend waiting until the instructor talks about them if the assignments seem confusing. But discussion boards, there's not really a good reason you can't work ahead on them other than the amount of reading that you would need to do right away. The next question is somewhat similar, is do I have a template or guide that I would follow to help guide me through the week? Example, Monday do this, Tuesday do this. Yes, I would say Sunday and Monday, I am trying to do all of the readings and the any video watching for the week. Possibly even Monday, Tuesday if you want to take Sundays off, because that's totally fine. And then Wednesday, I'm trying to make my initial posts. And the reason I want to make them on Wednesday is that I'm hoping that Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, I can go on and start reading other people's discussion board posts. My master's wasn't online, but my doctorate did have a lot of classes that were a similar format to this. And there was about 3 or 4 of us in my cohort who followed that same format. And so we almost always ended up responding to each other's discussion board posts, because then we were done with the discussion boards on Thursdays instead of Saturdays. And if you're able to respond to your peers on Thursday, because you've posted earlier in the week and other peers have done that, at the very least, you should be able to respond to peers on Friday. That leaves you Friday and Saturday to really buckle down and work on the assignment, the larger papers. I would also recommend, okay, you've now wrapped up assignment week 4, look ahead, and that would mean that this Friday, Saturday, start working on assignment for week 6. So then next week, in week 6, your Friday and Saturday work on assignment 6 is just wrapping it up. So that each assignment, you're not doing just the week it's due, you start it the week before it's due, and then polish it and wrap it up the next week. But that does require doing some of the readings ahead of time. So that is my other recommendation, is that you know, that first week when the course opens, start doing readings. And anytime that you find yourself with a little bit of extra time, do the readings. When I was doing my doctorate, I was still going to the gym every day. Can't do that anymore. And I would go on the treadmill or the stair climber, and that's when I would do the readings. And I would try to do as much reading at the gym so I could multitask as I could, because just sitting and reading chapters and articles for hours in the evening is really hard to do. If you can find a way to do it while you're doing other things, I highly recommend that. Or, you know, starting a chapter if you get a lunch break and doing things like that. How did I choose this role? Teaching about childhood trauma. So not the entire program is about childhood trauma. There are some other things that drew me to this more, because I don't actively work with children. But how I felt, I fell into the role in that one of my closest friends was good friends with one of the previous program directors. And somehow they got to talking about me, and the program director asked my friend to ask me to contact them. Because of the setting I work in, I have a very unique view on trauma work. I would say at least 95% of our students had some pretty significant trauma, you know, ACEs stuff as children. There are some who don't and still end up in prison, but the vast majority definitely have a lot of trauma in their childhood. And they offered me a position, and this is the first time I've taught this course specifically, but it is a very interesting topic for me because of that, because I know that my students had these, and the vast majority of them have children that now have, for sure, the parent in prison ACE. And how can I, you know, make sure that when they leave prison that they can be better parents and not continue the cycle of incarceration, because a lot of them have had family members in prison, and possibly 2 or 3 or 4 generations of family members in prison. If you have more questions on that, feel free to email me. Don't want to take up everybody's time on that one. One of the big things that I saw in a lot of people was the learning brain versus the survival brain. I agree. I think that's a very important distinction, and it really helps, when a child acts up and they say, I don't know. When you ask, why did you do that? They may actually not know, because they were in their survival brain and their thinking brain was not working. So keep that in mind when a kid tells you, I don't know why I did it. They actually might not. I know it's frustrating because, got some kids of my own that say, I don't know. Why did you push your sister? I don't know. Well, they might not. And then the prevalence of ACEs, they are everywhere. And, some communities are going to have lower or higher numbers, but on average, the United States is about 60% of children experience at least one. Your readings for week 5. You're going to create your own working definition of executive function. How would you define it to your students, their families, etc.? Is it attentiveness, task switching, cognitive flexibility? Is it working memory? Is it inhibitory control, being able to control yourself? What is executive function to you? Is it a combination of all of that? Is it some other things? Try to have a working definition for yourself. We're going to talk about the neurobiological background and daily interactions with students and staff. And here's the good news: we can always learn and teach new executive functioning skills. Preview of your next assignment: ACEs education, accountability, and responsibility. I want you to identify 3 strategies enabling educators to address the impact of ACEs present in your current classroom and educational space. So all of you in your classrooms probably have some ACEs that are more prevalent than others. So those are the ones you should focus on. What does research suggest are effective practices to support successful learning for students who have experienced ACEs? Identify education, accountability, and responsibilities of varying levels of school system and district, such as school boards, superintendents, building administrators, classroom teachers, social workers, counselors, assessment personnel, etc. Anybody, cooks, bus drivers, etc. You're going to use a formal academic voice, APA cover page, heading, citations, and reference page, and 2 to 3 pages of content writing, including an intro and conclusion. A note on this: there is an old template that will be linked in the instructor remarks. Use it as a guideline, as a until it's early in the morning. My brain is not, so don't use this for your final paper because it's not an APA template. As you can see, that's not me, but it does give kind of a rough sketch of what it should look like. So feel free to base it off of that or go your own way. But I wouldn't use this to type in because, like I said, it's not an APA formatted template. My question for this week: what is one thing you are seeing differently since you began this program? And I will say, for me, the biggest thing that my thinking has changed on since I started teaching in this program is behaviors being intentional versus being a product of historical traumas for a student. So we have a lot of behaviors from our adults in prison that, we would say, guy's lazy, he can't stay quiet in class, he just doesn't want to do any work, or he's got problems with authority, that before talking with colleagues, it was just a behavior, it was a choice. And now after teaching in this program for a while, I'm like, well, probably actually has a lot more to do with, some childhood trauma or previous experience than with an active decision now. As always, please be in touch. You can see who originally wrote this. Best way to reach me is by email. A lot of you have been reaching out to me. That's great. Please continue to do so. If you are very confused by the assignments or looking forward at any of the further assignments, we can always arrange a phone or Zoom call. We'll arrange it via email. And as always, I'll try to respond within 24 hours. I look forward to reading your guys' last assignments. I am hoping to get to them by Wednesday or Thursday this week, but I do have some pretty big days coming up at work with travel and meetings, so I may be more delayed on that, but at the very least, they will be done by next weekend. So look for those in your inbox and have a great week.